Hello and welcome to the Hard Card Podcast, recorded and filmed at Authentic Collectables HQ in Perth, Western Australia. For our second episode, we are joined by somebody who has already achieved a kind of legendary status in Aussie motorsport despite her young age. She's an Australian rally champion and she's competed in a number of off-road disciplines on the world stage. Of course, I'm talking about the one and only Molly Taylor, who joins us from Saudi Arabia ahead of the opening round of the Extreme E season. Molly, thanks for taking the time for a chat. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks for having me. We're over in Saudi at the moment, so nice to be able to join you in Perth.
I actually flew through Dubai earlier this week and it was raining. It caused absolute chaos at the airport because I don't think it happens over there all that often. Have your pre-season preparations been affected by the weather at all since you've been over there doing some testing and stuff?
Yeah, no, everything's been going well. We've had a little bit of rain before we arrived, but it doesn't really affect the sand. It makes the sand a little bit grippier, if anything else. But the weather's looking, it's winter over here, but it's still sort of high 20s, low 30s. So it's, just like being back at home in terms of the weather. It's quite nice.
Tell us a bit about Extreme E. I think it kind of falls into a blind spot for Aussie motorsport fans to some extent, just with inconsistency with the coverage and so on in this part of the world. How does the format work? What are the cars like to drive? Give us some insight into the series.
Yeah, Extreme E, it started in 2021, so it's still a pretty new series, developed by the same Alejandro Agag, who runs Formula E, and now the E1 boat series as well. So the concept is basically taking 550 horsepower all-electric off-road SUVs and then going to remote locations across the world that have been affected by climate change. And it's a bit like off-road rallycross. So it's head-to-head racing. It's pretty insane, but not on specific tracks. We sort of make the track of wherever we are in the world. And then also, with the sustainability side as well. So racing all electric, they're powered, recharged by hydrogen energy that's developed on site. So it's really about taking motorsport and looking at how we can make motorsport still really exciting, but also sustainable, and also highlight the impact of climate change in all these regions. Because it's, I guess, one thing hearing about it all, but being actually on the ground and seeing things, it does change your perspective quite a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. What, I guess the idea of racing electric cars or rallying electric cars is kind of still this new sort of thing. What's it like actually driving these cars? I always think about like massive torque delivery when it comes to electric cars and that sort of stuff. Have you had to change your style much? How do you get the most out of them? Yeah,
they're a lot of fun to drive, and as you say, having all that torque instantly is a pretty cool thing. They're a beast. They're like almost 2-ton, massive things. So they're more different to drive from that perspective, driving something that big on all these different surfaces, on sand, on gravel and mud and everything. So it's probably more on that side rather than the actual electric. That's quite, easy to get used to. It's just less sound. So I think some of your, perceptions and how you kind of use those audible cues with gearing and things like that, and revs when you're driving, you sort of have to recalibrate, I suppose, to not having those things. But that's all quite quick to get used to, and then having all the power when you want it is always a nice thing when you're driving. But I would say it's more taking these massive vehicles in all these locations that you don't get to see beforehand, or you do a track walk and then you're flat out straight away. So it's it's more adapting to everything that's happening on the fly rather than trying to adjust to the electric as such.
So do most of the drivers competing in that series, do they come with a rallying background? Do some come with rallycross background or even circuit racing background? Where are people coming from?
It's a real mix. I think that's one of the cool things about Extreme E. We have, across the 3 seasons, we've had motorsport champions from Formula 1 world champions, Dakar, World Rallycross, World Rally. We've had people like Sebastian Loeb, Carlos Sainz owning a team, Jensen Button, Nico Rosberg, all those guys. So it's kind of taking the who's who of all the motorsports. So the paddock's quite an insane place to be in terms of that. So we've had drivers from all sorts of disciplines, still do. I would say it's getting more and more the rallycross drivers seem to be taking over. There's most of the field, the larger percentage would be rallycross drivers. It essentially, we race the formats 4 or 5 cars at a time, head to head on a short 3.5 kilometre lap. So one driver will do 2 laps. So each team has a 1 male and 1 female driver, which is another unique part of the whole concept of the series. So one driver will start, do 2 laps, come in, and then you've got a driver change, which is all within still the race time. And then the other driver goes out and does 2 laps. So, it's very much like a rallycross style head-to-head, but it's just with a few more like jumps and bumps and a bit like more to navigate than a rallycross track that's specifically designed.
I've actually always meant to ask you this since you won the Extreme E title. How was Johan Christopherson like to work with? I actually knew him from a very weird Italian series called the Supercars series in 2012. I think he drove in that, and I was covering that over in Italy. And so I spent a fair bit of time hanging out with him. He can drive, that bloke. He was, even on a circuit car, he was so fast.
Yeah, he's unreal. He was, great to learn from. He's like 4 or 5-time World Rallycross champion now, so the goat of World Rallycross really. So to learn from that and his racecraft and some of the lines that he would think he could take and manage to pull off. There was kind of one of his trademarks. It's an incredible opportunity, and I think even now racing with Kevin Hansen, who's also a legend of World Rallycross and came second to Johan last year in a really close battle. So to learn from those guys that are the best in the world at their craft, it's a great opportunity. And also I think because it's a bit unusual in the teammate scenario, normally if you have 2 drivers in one team, yes, you want the team to do well, but you're also racing against each other, whereas in Extreme E, it's really about getting the most out of both of you because you're both in the same race. And that, I think, as a driver, especially coming into a series with drivers of this caliber and this experience, it's not very often you get kind of that opportunity to really dive in and be that close to learning from these kind of people. And we can see that translate in sort of, I guess, the progression over the series of the last couple of years.
Does that change the way that you interact with your teammate or the way you work with them? I'm not sure what your sort of levels of data analysis there is, on the Saturday evening or that sort of stuff. Does it make any difference, the fact that you are genuinely working with your teammate and not sort of seeing them as the first person you got to beat?
Yeah, massively. We don't get that much track time in the cars, so there's a huge amount of time just going over the data and trying to learn the bits you can from the short laps that you had. So being able to utilize that time effectively is a real asset if you can do that well, because that's where you can make a lot of gains when you go back out onto the track. And to be able to overlay your data in a way that's, as you say, not trying to compete against each other but trying to push each other forward is a huge asset and something that we do a lot of.
What do you sort of like? What's the actual setup of the event? Like, is there a bivouac out there that you stay in because you're obviously in sort of more remote areas? Do you go back to a hotel somewhere? How does the events actually function? Yeah,
so it's a bit dependent on location. I mean, we're at a hotel now, about to head out to the track. Everything travels to the event on a ship, so there's no air freight for all the equipment and cars. So we have on some events stayed on the ship as well, which gets quite wild. But really depending on the location, and then as you say, there's kind of like a bivouac setup that we take out to the event. So a little bit, like Dakar, those sorts of things where we've got all the mobile equipment and the chargers and the power production and the tents and all the equipment and the cars and everything that kind of just goes site to site. So it's kind of cool. It's like you're on an expedition. Looks a bit like an army base or Antarctic base or something like that gets set up and moved around the world. So you're very much when we're out on the track, we're in the middle of the desert. So there's not any sort of man-made amenities around us. But I think that's quite cool and quite spectacular to see these parts of the world, and the scenery of the races is just insane.
By the time a lot of people watch this episode, the first round might be finished, given the fact it's happening this weekend. But how do you think you're placed this year with Kevin and the team there? Are you fairly confident heading into the season?
Yeah, I mean, we've got all the ingredients. We had a really good battle for the championship last year. Unfortunately, it did end up going our way in the end, but we took the equal amount of wins across the season. We proved that we've got the winning pace. So we've had a season now under our belt working together. So you're always in a stronger position the more time you have together. So heading into this year, there's every reason why it should be our championship. So that's certainly what we're focused on and what we're going to be working really hard towards.
Just last one on Extreme E. How did you kind of get involved in this thing? Obviously, like you say, the concept of it is that every team has a female driver and a male driver. Works out pretty well for you, given the fact you're probably one of the better known and faster female rally drivers in the world. So how did it sort of come about that you ended up competing in this championship?
I mean, I was following it when, I guess it was probably just before COVID, they've sort of announcing the concept of the series and starting to I guess, develop the cars and all that sort of stuff. So I was following it quite closely from the beginning and sort of got in touch and said, how do I get involved? And then really it was more around when we were in lockdown, really, in Australia, where, teams were starting to sign on. And then I actually got an email from my website inquiry form from Nico Rosberg asking if I'd want to drive for him. And I thought it was a prank at first. But yeah, it turns out it wasn't. And so it was interesting because at that point, I mean, we'd run the Subaru factory rally team for 4 years, and then COVID happened, and basically rallying stopped, the program stopped, and for a few months it was kind of like, oh, there's nothing happening, and it was a bit unsure what the future was going to hold, and then next minute, a few months later, this really changed everything from my perspective to go from not knowing what your next drive would be or if there would be a drive to suddenly driving in an international category of this caliber, and it's certainly provided more opportunity as well to do other types of motorsport, and like Dakar came from that, doing some rallycross rounds, and being able to get the rally program back off the ground to an extent back in Australia too. So it's funny how it I guess motorsport is a game of momentum sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to delve into a few areas of your life and your career so far. I mean, you grew up around motorsport. Your mum is arguably the most famous Aussie rally co-driver ever. What was your childhood like, growing up in that environment? How close were the Bates and Taylor families? What was it like for Molly Taylor as a kid?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I just thought it was kind of normal. Didn't know any different. Mum was travelling a lot, competing with the rally team. But yeah, I mean, I guess the Bates family is sort of, very close family friends. Harry and Lewis sort of feel like my younger brothers. Harry would be my best mate. So we've spent a lot of time together growing up. So it's a nice, I guess, family unit from that perspective. But I never really, I always followed the rallying and went to some rallying, but I never actually got involved directly myself until I got my license for the road. So I was kind of, exposed to it, around it, enjoyed it, but never really, I don't know why, I never really started doing it myself at a young age. And then when I did start a bit later on, sort of by accident, it was more just to do a bit of driver training when I was getting my license to drive on the road. And then that, I guess, opened my eyes to what it was like to drive a rally car, and then realised why everyone was so obsessed with it in my family. And then it kind of went from there. Yeah.
Did you have any other sports and hobbies and that sort of stuff as a kid while the rest of your family was sort of involved in rallying?
Yeah, I loved horses, so I have no idea where that came from. Maybe there was a bit of like an adrenaline junkie streak in that as well. So yeah, like when I was growing up, I just wanted to be an Olympic horse rider. It was my dream when I was younger, and then discovered a few more horsepower and realised that might be a better path to take.
Yeah. I've ridden horses a couple of times in my life, and it's a lot more scary than driving a racing car. I'll tell you right now. They got a mind of their own, those things, and you're a long way off the ground.
Yeah, for sure.
Was there ever, when you did start to take that interest in motorsport, was there ever any interest in following in your mum's footsteps and going down the co-driver path, or were you pretty much like, nah, I want to be on the side of the car where the steering wheels and the pedals are?
Yeah, I mean, there was never really, I guess, much thought either way, because it was, when I got involved in motorsport, it was from driving a car, so that was kind of the bit that I enjoyed and thought I wanted to do more of that. So it was never really a consideration, I suppose, of should I do this or that. It just kind of happened naturally from the driving side. I never really, I've co-driven for fun in a couple of rallies. I co-drove for Harry in his very first rally. So I've done it a few times for fun, but that's a whole different skill and a different mental level you've got to be on to sit there in the passenger seat.
Yeah. Yeah. You've got some amazing rallying achievements on your CV, the ARC title, the Extreme E title. Is there any frustration that you haven't had a bit more longevity in any one of these sort of disciplines, if you know what I mean. I mean, obviously your Extreme E career is still going, but like, do you ever wish maybe you'd had a proper crack at special stage rallying on a longer basis on the world stage or anything like that?
Oh, yeah, 100%. Rallying, I guess, is my first love, and it's nice to be sort of getting back to it now. But it's for sure. Spent 4 years competing. Oh well, a couple of years in the British Championship, then about 4 years doing like European and Junior World Championship, and that was always the dream to continue there. But yeah, I mean, it's like all motorsport, and particularly rallying, it's requires a lot of resource and funding and sponsorship, and that's the continual battle every year on that side to try and get that together. And yes, you need to be good and have results, but you still need to bring that with you, and that's, I guess, nothing new to many drivers trying to bring that all together. But in rallying here, there's not really, it's not like there's a bunch of factory drive options. I was super lucky to be involved with the Subaru factory team, when it was running for those 4 years, but it's not like if that factory program closes, you go to another team. There's no teams like that. There's those opportunities, just they aren't readily available. So I think it's a case of grabbing what opportunities you can, and I suppose that's why I've done quite a few different disciplines, because it's just trying to take the opportunities that are there to drive and be in a car and keep it going. So I think it's been great to have the factory drives, and I'd love them to keep going, but it's also the nature of our sport sometimes.
There was, we know you raced in TCR Australia, obviously, but there was a flirtation with Supercars as well. I can't remember the exact year, but I think maybe 2016 or 2017. But I know Holden was genuinely keen on getting you on board and building a program around you. I think you tested with BJR. Yes. From memory. What kind of went on there? How close did it come? Were you keen to make that switch if a deal could have come together? Where did that all sit?
Yeah, it was like an awesome experience to test a supercar. Really, really enjoyed it. The BJR team are fantastic and gave me such a great opportunity. And so that all went well, and we definitely spoke about sort of going down that path. At the time, I still had the rally contract with Subaru, and the discussions around getting into supercars weren't. It wasn't like, here's a supercar deal, here, this is the program, this is, like the development pathway type of thing. It was like a bit looser than that. So at the time, it wasn't, I thought if that was something that I was going to try and do, I needed to do it right, and I needed to, it's not that easy to just switch disciplines. Yep. If it was that easy just to come in and jump into supercars, there'd be, a lot more people doing it. So I appreciated what the scope and the difficulty of the task would be, and so I only wanted to do it if I was, sure that we were going to, have everything laid out the right way, rather than I didn't want to come in and just do a couple of rounds, and not be prepared for it. So that was really important. So it wasn't at that point a big enough program or on the table to, step away from a full-time rally factory program, which I was absolutely loving doing, and passionate about that. So a little bit of what could have been, but at the time there wasn't really the right opportunity.
You have this massively diverse career now. There's the driving stuff, there's the TV stuff, there's the garage that you built with your partner Dan. What does the future hold for you? Like, what's your priority? What do you see yourself doing in the sort of medium-term future?
It's a good question. Extreme E is obviously, something that I'm really passionate about growing and being involved in, and then the rally program as well. To be back rallying's always been the dream since COVID and since the rally program stopped. It's always been trying to get it all back out there. So that's taken a fair few years to get off the ground, and the workshop really was part of bringing that together, having our own sort of space where we could try and manage our own thing and bring on our own partners and build all of that together. So that was largely one of the reasons behind building the Mad Garage, to help facilitate that program. So I suppose, dreaming in 10 years' time to have your own race team would be a dream of mine. But right now to be competing at the top level in Extreme E, didn't quite get the program for Dakar together in the end this year. But that's still something that's definitely front of mind on that side. So really, all the different off-road disciplines, whatever I can get into. But yeah, it's just motorsport, particularly in this world, is quite tricky to all get all those things together. So it's kind of always a bit of a mission to bring all the programs together. I'm very lucky to have some incredible supporters this year and build on that and build all the content with the Mag Garage and show a little bit more about behind the scenes and what it takes to actually put everything together, not just kind of the finished result at the end. And I think that's been a really interesting thing and fun thing to do because there's a whole sort of, I guess, world of motorsport that you don't always see, and I think that's really interesting to people. So we want to show a bit of that and be in the car as much as possible ultimately at the end of the day.
I wanted to ask you about Dakar. As you said, you weren't there this year. You've been there in the past in the side-by-side program. Is doing Dakar in a proper car, is that on your bucket list? Is that where you'd like to go with that program if you can get back there?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the T1 Plus category is just insane. Been very lucky to do 2 years with Can-Am, and I mean, those things are also like such a smaller thing compared to the outright T1 Plus cars, but the capability of those buggies is just like, it's so impressive when you're going up these like huge dunes and the amount of like punishment and rough stuff that those buggies go through is super fun. So definitely in that category as well is definitely something that's on the radar. But yeah, like the T1 Ultimate cars, I think it's just like in the WRC, everyone wants to drive the top WRC car. It's the same kind of thing with Dakar.
Let's finish up with the Authentic Collectables Top 10 shootout. So 10 rapid-fire questions. Number one, Molly, who was your sporting idol growing up?
Michelle Mouton and Neil Bates.
Okay. Oh, that's good. Okay. Yep, that makes sense. Did you ever collect any memorabilia, posters, trading cards, that sort of stuff when you were a kid?
I have a signed poster from Sebastian Loeb. That's still one of my most prized possessions.
Do you collect things from your own motorsport career?
I do. I have a bunch of random, mostly things that have broken at critical moments. So I have, when we almost won our second Australian Championship in 2017, I have the piston and conrod out of that engine that looks a bit worse for wear. And I sit that next to my 2016 trophy.
That was at Coffs Harbour, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
I was there. I was there that year. I do remember that.
Yeah, I've got my bumper from when we won the championship. So yeah, I like to keep some, some injured car parts as well next to the trophies to kind of, it just balances things out. It's not, there's always a story. There's a story behind the trophy, and sometimes there's no trophy, and there's a even bigger story behind that one.
Yeah, you got to take the crunchy with the smooth, unfortunately, in motor racing. That's generally how it goes. What's your favourite of all those idols? I'm guessing not the piston that came flying out of the block in Coffs Harbour, but what's your favourite collector item?
Oh, that's a good question. Probably the bumper from 2016, having a part of that car. It's the only part. That car was then later in a different rally with a different crew rolled into a bull, so there's nothing left of that 2016 championship winning car, but I have the bumper, so do that.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, right. That's a good answer. If money was no object, what would be the ultimate piece of memorabilia, not of your own, but of, whatever that you'd like to have?
Oh, like a Group B rally car, probably.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That'd be a good bit of memorabilia. I reckon I'd like the helmet that Carlos Sainz threw the back window at the Rally GB when he missed out on the championship at the time. That'd be good. I actually, when I did a couple of WRC rounds with the new Fiesta Rally 3 a few years ago, we were being run by M Sport, and we had the M Sport recce car, and the seating position, like there wasn't enough adjustment for me to be able to see over the dash. So I had like a heap of seat foam and padding in, and they had a big box of old seat padding and said, go for your life and grab whatever you want. And I grabbed out a seat cushion and it had C Saints written on it. Oh, wow.
I was like, this sequence is it's coming with me in the Recce Cup. It's quite cool.
That is very cool. I think you've almost half answered this one already, but what's the ultimate race car that you want to drive, or rally car in your case?
I mean, I think it's got to be a modern WRC car. I mean, the Group B cars and the historic stuff, yes, would be up there, but then also I like the technology performance of the current cars. I just think would be absolutely mind-blowing.
I think being alive is a pretty big bonus as well, and Group B was sometimes a bit sketchy on that front, so probably a good decision. Name a team or driver or motorsport personality that you would love to work with. Now, this can be someone from the past or the present, whatever you want.
Someone that I'm not currently working with.
Yes.
Sebastian Loeb.
Okay, all right. There's another question coming up, which I think you're almost answering here as well. But anyway, we'll get there. In the off-season, when the scales don't matter, what's your go-to junk food? And I know you're an incredibly fit and healthy person, so this might actually be a tough one for you.
Oh, no, but that's easy, like chocolate. I'm terrible with chocolate.
You'll like this one. In your opinion, who's the best rally driver out of Neil, Harry and Lewis Bates?
Oh, God, there's no way I can win this answer, is there?
Nah, it's like picking between your children, I know, but you got to pick one.
I mean, is it like right now or just in their era?
Just who's better? Who's the best one?
Well, I'm just going to say Neil because I want to. I don't want to cause any fights, and I ask Neil for a lot. He does a lot of favours for me, so I think I'm going to say Neil and Harry. Lewis and deal with it.
Greatest rally driver of all time.
Oh.
You mentioned Sebastian Loeb like 10 times. Surely that's your answer.
I know, and I'm trying to think like it's going to be so generic. Yeah, Sebastian Loeb. Yeah, I mean, I know it's we've had like so many incredible ones, but I think his consistency is pretty unparalleled.
Perfect. Well, thank you for joining us, Molly, and best of luck with the Extreme E season. We'll be back in the next couple of weeks with a new episode of the Hard Car Podcast at Authentic Collectables. And another quick thanks to Molly Taylor for taking the time to chat with the Hard Card with Authentic Collectables on the eve of the Extreme E season. Just a quick note from me, make sure you check out Authentic Collectables and the website there to see all the new cool stuff they've got in the pipeline. They make some great products. As you can see from all the stuff behind me here, there's even a Gen 3 model there, so I think there's a few of those that are going to be coming out pretty soon, which is very, very cool. Also, make sure that you subscribe to the Authentic Collectables YouTube channel and hit the notify button to make sure you're getting all the notifications for new episodes when they drop. We got some really cool guests in the pipeline, and it's going to be a really fun year of doing these things. So make sure you subscribe and you know when the new episodes come out, exactly when they come out.